Sige, start na tayo ng klase. Okay? So, part 2 to nung discussion natin kahapon yung network configuration o router Wi-Fi repeater configuration. Pero we are now focused on the RAM. Wireless LAN or wireless local area network. Okay? So, yan. Kita naman, no? So, wireless local area network or WLAN. Okay? So, pag-uusapan natin ngayon to. Later on, we'll be discussing the difference between yung kahapon, di ba? Yung 2.54, yung frequency versus 5 gigahertz na speed natin. So, it may advantages and disadvantages. So, let's talk about the WLAN or the wireless local area network. It is a flexible data communication system implemented as an extension or as alternative for a wired LAN. So most commonly kasi 'di ba ang local area network, 'di ba? Within the area, 'di ba? May mga computer tayo, so magko-connect ito ay network. So regardless kung ano yung ano natin, yung topology natin. Of course within the area, syempre sa pamamagitan 'yon ng mga wired, okay? UTP cable natin, yung LAN cable. So magko-connect sila lahat sa router or meron silang hubs and switches para mag-connect yung mga computers natin. So, ito naman is an alternative way which is the WLAN. Kumbaga, yung mga it seems to be wireless. Okay, ibig sabihin, ko-connect lang sila through Wi-Fi or wireless fidelity. Okay? So, for example, ang cellphone, yung tablet, yung laptop, they can connect wireless through Wi-Fi. So a wireless LAN is a wireless local area network that uses radio waves as its carrier. Okay? So yun po yung radio waves. Kumbaga, wireless nga eh. So ito yung magiging medium para makakapag-connect tayo. So the last link with the user is wireless to give a network connection to all users in a building or campus. So sa mga usually school, sa bahay, saan pa tayo pumunta? Kahit nga sa mall, 'di ba, may Wi-Fi, may timer pa nga yung ano eh, 'di ba, yung Wi-Fi. So the backbone network usually uses cable. So yung router pa rin, kumbaga, yung router, okay, ngayon kasi 'di ba, router slash modem. So technically, maka-connect din yung mga wireless devices. Okay? Pero the backbone pa rin is yung for example, router tapos the modem. Okay? So naka-wired pa rin siya naka-connect. And then for example, sabi ko nga 'di ba 3 floors yung ano natin. So first floor, second floor, third floor. So nasa baba yung router mo. Yung router slash modem natin. So magkakaroon ka na sa second floor at third floor. So technically backbone pa rin using the LAN cable is yung 'di ba yung mga routers na dalawang routers sa second floor isa sa third floor. So ko-connect pa rin yung UTP cable sa first floor which is the main router slash modem. At the same time, yung dalawa pong router na yon, i-configure pa rin natin yon tulad nung na-discuss ko kahapon. Okay, kung napanood niyo yung video. Okay, so topologies natin, the wireless LAN connects to a wired LAN. Again, wireless pa rin, the wireless LAN, backbone pa rin is LAN, which is with UTP cable. There's a need of access point that bridges the LAN traffic into the wired LAN. Okay? Usually gumagamit din naman ng bridges. Okay? Para kahit whether through the use of Ethernet cable or wireless pa rin, mag-communicate pa rin sila. Magkaroon pa rin ng access. The AP or access point also acts as a repeater for the wireless nodes, effectively doubling the maximum possible distance between the nodes. Okay? So how the wireless LAN works? Okay, so this is the modem. So mga lumang style pa dati is modem. So LAN cable pa lang. And it is not ready for wireless. So anong kailangan? So bibili ka ng router, hub, or access point para magkaroon ng access po yung mga computers and smartphones para magkaroon ng internet. Okay? So diyan, 'di ba, ngayon kasi modem, kasama na yung modem sa router. Kumbaga ready na siya for wireless connection. Technically, kung maraming computer, syempre meron kang tinatawag natin na bridges or hubs or switches that is applicable para makapag-access sa mga computers natin. Okay? So components of the wireless architecture. So wireless LAN architecture is composed of different components which helps in establishing local area network between different operating system. We have the access point, clients, and bridge. So as we discussed earlier, access points is a special type of writing device used to transmit the data between the wired and the wireless. So para mag-communicate sila, that's called the access point. Access points. So client, ano ba yung client? So usually our devices. Okay? PC, phone, yan. So that are linked with wireless network area referred as a clients. So sila po yung, oops, wait lang ah. Yan. So referred as a client of wireless LAN architecture. Ang bridge naman, so special connectors of network device which used to establish connection between the wired and the wireless. Okay, magbi-bridge sila. Now, how we can configure wireless LANs. So kung mapapanood niyo yung kahapon, so that's the way on how to configure, no? Sa ano naman yun, sa router, okay? Para magkaroon ng Wi-Fi. 5 ways to configure wireless LAN, peer-to-peer network, client access point, multiple access, points and roaming, user extension point, and directional antenna. So let's go to the peer-to-peer network. So sa peer-to-peer network, so there are two PCs with the wireless adapter. So these are independent network that they are within the range of one another. So dito wala namang kailangan admin or configuration. Okay? So it has the access to only the resources shared by the owner client and not to the central server. So sa LAN standard natin based on IEEE 802.11 yan. So develop the first internationally recognized LAN standards. So it is limited to physical and data link layers. So doon sa OSI layers natin. So sa types naman, yan, it can be infrastructure and ad hoc mode. So this is one the ad hoc and this was the infrastructure. Sa infrastructure kasi merong access point. Okay? So infrastructure mode requires a central access point that all devices connected to. Okay? So yun yung kailangan niya para maka-access. So ad hoc mode is known as peer-to-peer mode, yon yung kanina. So don't require a centralized access point. So instead, devices on the wireless network connect directly to each. Unlike this one kasi may mga interfaces tayo para so interface bago maka-connect tayo sa internet. Okay? So next naman natin yung medium access control. Ito yung tinatawag nating MAC. Okay? So kahapon device sa device natin para malalaman yung MAC address ng isang device. So there are three functional areas which is number 1, reliable data delivery. Number 2 is access control and security. So number 1 is encryption. So we are familiar with the word encryption. Ito yung sinasabi sa mga crypto and blockchain which is yung plain text or for example this is our information that be converted bago siya ma-encrypt. So there is an algorithm with that para ma-encrypt siya and then yung encrypted so ito ay composed of letters and numbers. Parang hex letters siya. Kumbaga halo-halo siya. Okay? So, when employing wireless transmission, this has to a disadvantage that relatively easy to listen to any data transferred. So, pag nag-transfer yung device ko, for example, syempre, nagta-transfer lang naman ng information yan. Okay? Pero syempre, kailangan natin na encryption for our safety. Syempre, yung internet natin eh. So, yung magpapasa tayo ng mga, syempre, sa other devices po natin ng sensitive information. So, to be defined by the encryption, okay, encryption is a form of data security. Okay. So, sakali siya papag-usapan yan, no? About sa data. Data mining, ayan, sa blockchain, yan. So, a form of data security in which information is converted of ciphertext. Okay? So, from plain text, mako-convert siya sa true letters and numbers. Okay? So only authorized people will have the key, then decrypt the code and access the original plain text information. So ano po ba ang ginagawa ng encryption? So it helps to protect private information, sensitive data, and enhance security of communication between client apps and servers. Okay? Kaya meron tayo, kumbaga, ito yung way, okay, para ma-secure po yung ating information, yung mga ginagawa po natin. Siyempre, sa cloud, especially the cloud. Pinaka ang high security nito, syempre yung mga bangko natin. So, this is the sample encryption. So, pag encryption, this is the plain text. For example, ito yung text. So, there will be an algorithm with that and security key. Then, we will convert to the cheaper text. So, letters and numbers po yan and symbols. Okay? So, pag i-decrypt, so parang tatanggalin yung convert ulit to the plain text. Okay? So, ganun yung algorithm at meron din ulit siya na security key or public key. So, balik tayo. So, meron tayong different encryption methods. Number 1, WEP. Yan yung Word Equivalent Privacy. So, it is a first encryption key protocol. So, it's no longer considered safe kasi madali na siyang i-hack. Usually, WPA2 na yung pinakabago natin na encryption method natin. So, doon muna tayo sa WPA. So, Wi-Fi Protected Access. So, developed by web protocol. So, it improves security mechanism, provide by better protection, may dynamic key na siya. Yung WPA2, ito yung pinakabago natin, which employs the strong AES algorithm to encode the data transfer. Okay? Madalas po sa mga Wi-Fi natin, naka-WPA2 na. So, it's a way of encryption. So, safe pa rin po yung paggamit natin ng internet. Okay? So next naman natin, the Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi is a technology that allows electronic device to connect to the wireless LAN network. So doon naman tayo sa range. Okay? Usually sa general rule natin, it can support 150 feet for the indoors and 300 feet for the outdoors, yung sa internet natin. And of course, depende yan sa ginagamit nating router. Okay? Yung capacity niya na magbato ng signal para magkaroon ng connection, yung mga wireless devices natin. Okay? So, obstruction in homes such as brick walls and metal frames or sliding can be reduced the range of Wi-Fi by 25%. Usually, kunyari, nilagay mo sa living room, tapos puro pala walls. So, technically, syempre, may ibang parts lang na, ito lang siya, kasi nga, may nahaharang po tayo na mga walls. Especially kung glass yon. So, pag glass kasi, yung signal, pag pumunta sa glass, then magbabounce lang siya pabalik. Okay? So for example, ito particular area lang yung merong signal. Okay? So for example, sa bahay naman din, less lang naman din yung mga walls na parang mga dividing. So possible na mas malawak yung maging range ng Wi-Fi. Even kahit sa taas, kakayanin niya. Okay? So what is the future of WLAN? So, the WLAN moves to the majority and usually ngayon, talamak na ang paggamit ng Wi-Fi. No, kahit saan po tayo pumunta. Diba? So, number 2, higher speeds. The same naman din nung ginagamit natin pagka naka-wired, ganun din yung improving speeds natin, same pa rin naman. Improve security because of the WPA2 method for encryption. Better error control, so long distance then, new vendors and global networking. So it's anytime, anywhere, any form connectivity. So what is the advantages nitong WLAN? So mobility, syempre yung movement ng tao, the very advance of wireless technology has a freedom of being able to move around without wires. Yun yung kagandahan daw. For example, dito sa bahay, so, sa cellphone ako, magla-laptop ako, kahit nasa baba ako, hindi ko na ilagay yung wireless, yung wired ko na LAN or Ethernet cable, diba? Kasi, saan ako komportable? Mas long as may connection ako wireless. Ease and cost of installation. So, walang cables masyado. So, kung we don't need to run cables through walls and ceilings, eliminated with the wireless LAN. Especially kung gagamit ka din ng tawag na extender. So kasi yung extender na patawag dito, extender. Sasaksak lang, so walang wired. So doon lang particular na gusto mong na may Ethernet, 'di ba? Doon sa may laptop mo, okay? Technically doon lang. So less wires tayo or kung gusto mo naman, 'di ba, yung mga routers, okay? Yun lang naman yung backbone para magkaroon ng connection sa second floor at sa third floor. Okay? So, wired lang. Pero pagka wireless na, syempre, yung particular floor area, yun, magkakaroon na sila ng connection. So, easy network modification and increased network reliability. Yeah, the most common network problem is the having cable failure. Syempre, may mga nangatid ng daga. Okay? Or hindi maayos yung pagkakalagay. Okay? Nasira. So, isa din sa problema natin yon. Saka financially, syempre, magkano din ang Ethernet cable. Unlike sa wireless LAN, so kukunik ka lang, sa Wi-Fi. Then, that's it. Speeder disaster recovery. So, the primary operations go down or having a WLAN makes life easier. Yeah. So, ability for network to be built and running so fast without business being significantly disturbed. So, magiging productive tayo dahil sa ganda ng mobility nito. So, yung speed din, at the same time, yung speed ng trabaho, yung speed din ng internet. Radio signal interference. Yan. So, wireless device operate the same radio frequency as other device. Signals from other device can disrupt wireless transmission. Okay? So, security. So, wireless signal is broadcast in open air, making security a big concern. So, also a concern din, no? Yung security. But of course, kung maingat tayo, kung alam natin yung scope and limitation natin with the use of internet, no? Kasi syempre, possible sa security, number 1, hackers. Number 2, viruses. Okay? Kasi alam niyo naman sa internet, may mga adwares, may mga viruses na ginagalawan yan. So, there are disadvantages, actually. So, health risk, number 1. So, health risk is a ongoing issue. Wireless device emit low levels of RF. So, no fact that high levels of RF with heating effects can cause biological damage. So sa ano natin? Costing. So, network cards, 4 times more than the wired network cards. Okay? The access points are more expensive than hubs and wires, especially kung malalaking ano na to ha. For example, for businesses na talagang kailangan na ng ganitong architecture. Signal bleed over. So, the AP pick up the signals of the adjacent process points or overpower their signal. And environmental conditions. Yeah, so susceptible to weather and solar activity, constrained by buildings, trees, and terrains. So, applications. Saan ba ginagawa tong application natin? So, number 1, mga medical professionals, mga hospital, sa offices, sa pag-aaral po natin. So, temporary situations, airlines, yan. Security staff, emergency centers, siyempre sa mga entertainment, sa mga malls. So, kahit saan po, applicable na yung wireless LAN applications. And alam naman natin na sa pag-connect sa internet, iba, inano yung MAC address, iba, siniset ng limit, connect ka, or 1 hour, depende kasi yan sa configuration. Okay? But at the same time, kung sino lang yung limit na ating bibigyan ng connection. Okay? So, that's the WLAN. Ngayon, syempre sa Wi-Fi, no, papakita ko lang dito. So, may mga internet service provider naman tayo. Lang. Yan. So, alam naman natin whether PLDT or the ano natin. So, whether yung isa or yung may nakalagay na pangalan na merong 5G. Okay? So, yan. Yung 5G and yung the usual, the 2.4 GHz. Okay? So, they have differences with advantages and disadvantages. So, ngayon, we will able to preview this short video about the difference between the two.
Have you ever purchased a new Wi-Fi router and you notice that the router has both 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz frequency bands? Or maybe your existing router has both of them. And did you ever wonder why some routers have these dual bands? So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, a frequency band is how wireless data is transmitted between devices. These bands are radio waves that carry the data, and these bands are either 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz. Now, a lot of Wi-Fi routers will only transmit one of these bands, which would be the 2.4 band, and that's because it's the most common frequency. and these are called single band routers. But a lot of newer Wi-Fi routers will transmit both the 2.4 and 5 GHz bands, and these are called dual band Wi-Fi routers. Now, the 2.4 band works pretty well. It's the standard band. But the problem is that it's not just a standard band that's used in Wi-Fi routers. It's also the standard band that's used in a lot of other devices. Things like microwave ovens, cordless phones, Bluetooth devices, and wireless cameras all use the 2.4 GHz band. And this became a problem because the fact that so many other devices use the 2.4 band, the signal became overcrowded and was causing a lot of interference with Wi-Fi signals. And when this happens, it slows down the Wi-Fi network speed and sometimes could cause you to lose connection to the Wi-Fi router. So that is why the 5 GHz band was added. The 5 GHz band is a newer band, and so it's not as commonly used as the 2.4, so it's used by fewer devices. And because it's used by fewer devices, the 5 GHz is not as crowded, so there is no interference or minimal interference. So using the 5 GHz would relieve the problem related to slow network speeds and connection drops that will be caused by interference from other devices. Another reason why the 2.4 is more vulnerable to interference is because of the difference in wireless channels. Now, if you're not familiar with what a wireless channel is just a way to fine-tune and alter a frequency. Sometimes you might need to change to a different channel if you are experiencing interference from different wireless devices, and changing to a different channel will give you that ability. The 2.4 GHz band has 11 channels to choose from, but of these 11 channels, only 3 are non-overlapping. So basically you have 3 solid channels to choose from. But the 5 GHz has more channels. It has 25 non-overlapping channels. And some other differences between the 2.4 and 5 GHz band is the speed and the range that they cover. The 2.4 GHz band transmits data at a slower speed than the 5 GHz, but it does have a longer range than the 5 GHz. The 5 GHz band transmits data at a faster speed than a 2.4, but it has a shorter range. The 5 GHz has a shorter range because it has a higher frequency, and higher frequencies have a harder time penetrating solid objects, such as floors and walls in a building. So as you can see on this illustration, this dual band Wi-Fi router is broadcasting a 2.4 GHz band, which is the green color, and it's also broadcasting a 5 GHz band, which is the red color. So as you can see, the 2.4 band has a longer range and the signal can cover most of this building. And it can also penetrate the second floor and the walls. But the 5 GHz band has a shorter range. The signal doesn't penetrate the second floor or the walls, which limits its range inside a building. So the question is, which band do you want to actually use? And that really depends on your situation. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of the 2.4 GHz is that it has a farther range and it can penetrate solid objects better. However, the disadvantage that it has is that it's more vulnerable to interference because so many other devices use the same band, and it's also slower than the 5 GHz. And the advantage of the 5 GHz is that it has a higher transfer speed and it's less vulnerable to interference. But at the same time, it does have a shorter range and it has a harder time penetrating through solid objects. And if you're interested in getting a dual band Wi-Fi router, I'll put a link in the description of this video below of a dual band Wi-Fi router that I personally recommend. And thank you for watching.
Okay, so yan yung the differences between natin sa 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz. So usually ang pinaka ang main ano doon, which is yung mga walls, yung mga nakaharang. So okay? So yung iba yung sa 2.4 GHz kasi is napapasable niya pa. Pero sa 5 GHz dahil sa taas ng kanyang frequency. So, kung ano yung ang susurround lang niya, 'di ba? Yun yung possible na magkaroon ng signals. Okay? So, that's our part 2 of the network configuration natin, which is the WLAN, which is more on focus with that. Okay? So, I'll be uploading this sa YouTube natin. Yung link, sisend ko na lang po sa GC ninyo. May questions pa po ba?
Wala na po, sir.